This video is sponsored by Fume. More on that later. Hello and welcome back to the drama. Today we are talking about my new favorite reality show that we have been watching while on tour, The D'Amelio Show, which just came out with season 3 of the classic viral family's antics as Mark, Heidi, Charli, and Dixie go through a lot of turmoil as they try to run their hectic family business.
All right, guys. I don't know.
Man, reality shows, especially revolving around families, seem like a bad idea. I wonder why. But in this specific case with the D'Amelio Show, I have a lot more thoughts than just that because of the problems that specifically weigh on people in this family and the dynamics of their relationships. I started watching the show because I made a He Said Us video on it a couple weeks ago when we were in Phoenix, and Dev and I watched a scene where Dixie and Charli were arguing about Charli's dog because they are moving in together into their multi-million-dollar mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and apparently they can't afford to get some freak to watch their dog, watch Charli's dog specifically. And so me, Devin, and Chelsea hit the screen, the silver screen, as we would start watching the D'Amelio Show whenever we ran out of episodes of The Golden Bachelor to watch. It's sort of the default that we have to fall back on, unfortunately. And this show has given me so many questions and concerns that I feel like are warranted for the D'Amelio family, and so I'm going to talk about them today. So far we have watched 4 episodes of this show, and it is bad. And I'm going to tell you why. I never watched the first 2 seasons of the D'Amelio Show, so I didn't really know what the format was like or how realistic it was or this or that. But I did watch some clips from season 1 to kind of get a read on how much it's changed, and they definitely have made a lot of decisions that have helped make the show feel a little more realistic than it had been before. At least in the first season, the scenes felt like they knew that the camera was in the room with them, and it was like a very obvious reenactment of what, oh, Dixie and her friend are hanging out, and this is what they talk about in real life. They talk about whether or not they can take the hate from the internet on TikTok. Oh, do they have an issue with the comments on their posts? I don't know. I wonder if they care.
It's the genuine friends that are actually like reaching out to you, or like, you know, or even checking up on you. Like, I think those are the most like genuine friends.
But let's start off with episode 1, and I'll kind of work my way through the show and let you know what I think. Episode 1 is called All Filters Are Off. That's really funny. That's like an internet reference. So let me explain what the general premise of season 1 of the D'Amelio Show is. A lot of this season so far is completely based around this conflict that is happening between Charli and Dixie. It is sort of this sister conflict, butting heads. They're always mad at each other. They're always getting in fights.
Do you kind of feel like Charli
is stealing my thunder?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this ties into how they are monetizing their family and their life from Charli's success on TikTok. And it's a really interesting dynamic because it's like the youngest girl in their family, who is also a very like meek and shy and nervous person, who is very soft-spoken and like hesitant to do anything with her platform.
I don't know if I can go through with living with Dixie.
You have the rest of her family, who's very out there and loves the attention that they get from Charli's success, and you can tell that very obviously by watching the show. Even though this show technically should revolve around the girl who is the most famous by far out of the rest of her family, they do try to make this a family centric show by letting Mark and Heidi talk about the family business as if they've built it from the ground up, with Mark's weird Italian superiority complex. Don't let yourselves forget that in 2014, Mark D'Amelio got a DUI for driving drunk with 9-year-old Charli D'Amelio in the car when he picked up a bunch of random guys in the car with his daughter in there. But hey, let's give them a big old show and a big paycheck to exploit their family for views. And that's what I think my main gripe with the show is that so much of it revolves around mental health and how the mental health of these girls are doing and how their family plays into the career that Charli has built, and how having a family business and having to work with your family members can sometimes hurt them more than it helps. And Mark even says in one of the recent episodes that our goal this year is the same as every year, which is to do no harm to their family, is what he says.
Goals for this year, I would say what our goal is every year, to do no harm to our family.
Go ahead.
So this guy, he's like, oh, like, I really don't want to make any business decisions that will put harm on the family. But then a couple episodes before, he's all about like, oh, well, we have to keep the family civil because we have to keep the family business going. And if Charli and Dixie aren't getting along, it's going to affect the business.
We can't afford them not to be speaking, just trying to diffuse.
Granted, this is reality TV, and reality TV needs a villain. They need to paint someone as a villain in order to get better ratings, right? And so we don't know how realistic this depiction of the D'Amelio family is, but at least from what we gather from the show, it makes Dixie look like such a evil little vermin.
I'm gonna punch you in the face if you don't.
Yeah, a big point Mark makes is that he doesn't want to do harm to the family, and a lot of times the only way that they talk about that is in terms of their family business making them have to work together and how that can cause them to get into fights and this and that.
Since family is the core of our business, I worry because it puts a lot of pressure on their relationship.
And they rarely talk about the fact that they signed up for a reality TV show that is recording these conversations happening about how their family business might be affecting mental health and the relationships with each other. And the big answer to all of this is that they shouldn't be doing the show, because at least in this season, such a major part of it is how bad the mental health of Charli and especially Dixie is. And they continually talk about, hey, maybe I have too much on my plate. Hey, maybe doing so much within the family is causing tensions to rise, and it's maybe actually pulling us further apart from each other. I think it's tough for Charli to grow up, have all of these things and opportunities thrown in her lap that of course she wants to do, because who doesn't want to host the Nick Choice Awards? Who doesn't want to be a representative for Prada? Who doesn't want to get paid a big check to have your family on reality TV so you guys can be the next Kardashians or whatever? But the issue is that the parents' focus is so much on how can we make our family happier and better without acknowledging that the decisions they are currently making in the moment are ripping the family apart. Again, we don't know how realistic this depiction of the family is. They could be recording for only like 10 minutes every time they go and do something, and then they're allowed to do stuff without the cameras on. I don't know. But a major conflict that comes up early in the season is the way that Dixie is affected by a disorder she has called PMDD. It is a menstrual disorder that affects anxiety, depression, your relationships in your life. It's pretty common among women, but on the spectrum of how bad it can be, it can basically totally ruin your life.
At the end of last year, I got diagnosed with PMDD. Hopefully people around me can understand that.
You're a little grouchy today, and you're taking
Oh,
it
so
out on
are
me.
you. Yeah, because everyone wants me to look like the bitch.
And in this season, we begin this conflict of seeing the way that Dixie treats Charli, the way that Charli feels about the way she's treated by her own sister. And the narrative of the show kind of places a lot of Dixie's actions and blames them on this PMDD. And of course, there's no way of saying how much you can actually control something when it comes to a life-altering disorder like that. But they really treat it in the show as if Dixie can't help but treat Charli the way she treats her because of this disorder she has, when in reality, the way that she is treated on the show and the way that Charli talks about it to her parents and talks about it to the camera legitimately feels like on camera and even off camera, Charli is perhaps emotionally abused by Dixie.
I don't even know how to describe it. It's like,
Well, I've seen it, I know.
I know, but it's like you see a mild version of it. Like the cameras see a mild version of it. Like no one actually sees how it is. I am her human punching bag.
And it's a hard thing to watch because you see her literally talk to her mom and be like, you and dad see some of it and the camera see some of it, but you guys don't actually see the way Dixie treats me behind closed doors and how she talks to me as a person and the way that she sees me. It sounds like somebody talking about an emotionally abusive relationship they have in their life. To constantly be putting that on camera and constantly exploiting that part of their relationship for the show to have some sort of like conflict and be interesting, it directly goes against Mark's mission statement for the whole thing, which is like, let's not harm our family. But in so many cases, Mark and Heidi do literally nothing to give Charli reassurance that her relationship with her sister might be better. They never talk to Dixie and level with her about the way she treats Charli. It all just gets blamed back on the PMDD.
Like, she doesn't really see how she could even, like, be the problem. I spent that entire week, like, just kind of taking it.
So have you tried talking to Dixie?
Which of course is a tough issue to deal with, but if anyone can find the treatment and the specialists to help her get better, it would be the D'Amelio family, because they have infinite resources, they have all the accommodations they could ask for, and sure, mentally Dixie might be in the roughest place she ever is in her life, but that doesn't really give any excuse for her to lash out and abuse her little sister on and off camera, and then do little to nothing to actually try to apologize and make things right, other than like a half-assed awkward apology where she like barely talks to Charli and she only does it because they're on camera and they're getting interviewed. The show goes to an interesting place because even though in season 1 they had a lot of episodes where friends of Charli and Dixie were a part of the show, now Mark and Heidi live in the family's house in the Hollywood Hills, and down the street there's another multi-million-dollar mansion that now Charli and Dixie share, and you can kind of see how removed they are from people in their life who aren't a part of this business or don't have to work with them because of just how public everything has to be. Like, these fights between their family and the way that Charli talks about her relationship with Dixie is all broadcasted to everybody, and a lot of times they don't even talk to each other about the issues they have for weeks while they're talking to the cameras about it. And it's hard to see how any of this isn't extremely harmful for a teenage girl to be experiencing, because this isn't like the Kardashians. They're not all like moms and shit. Like, the main characters of this show are 2 young girls who didn't really get to grow up, because before they even had the chance to like go to college or even much of high school, they were already on the covers of magazines and going on goddamn, I don't know, Jimmy Fallon with Guillermo or whatever.
One thing I do want to say too is like, it's so clear that Charli doesn't want to live with Dixie.
Dixie doesn't really want me there. Dixie's going to make it just a negative experience. I'm maybe thinking of not moving in with her.
I want to be able to live together in a positive environment.
Now I'm having second thoughts about living with Dixie. Can you move in with me? Okay. And I never even got to be like, do I want to do this? I'm going to try and just figure out how to not let Dixie bring me down. Every time we try to have a conversation, it ends in a fight.
I have a feeling that there's pressure from the show for them to move in together because it just logistically would make it easier for them to film. If you're trying to make decisions that are best for the family, like, there should not be pressure on Charli to move in with Dixie. Like, I think Dixie should genuinely go live in a hole by herself.
So you get this dynamic between the sisters, one which is Dixie being very, harsh, straightforward, like deadpan, and who is trying to advance her career in the music world and in the modeling world. And then Charli, who sort of just is like doing a little bit of everything. I don't know, it's a weird dynamic also in the show because Mark and Heidi are constantly talking about like the family business, and I legitimately like don't know what they do. I think they sort of just, I don't know, because they have assistants to do all of the logistic stuff that they need to do. Charli and Dixie are constantly like getting ready to move in, but then they take all these shots from the house where of course there's a million other people moving them in because they're not obviously not going to move themselves. If I were them, I wouldn't be moving myself into the big mansion. Hey, you, stop right there. We need to talk about the sponsor for this video, Fume. A wise man once told me that cold turkey, it might be good on sandwiches, but it's not so good for breaking a bad habit. And I'm not trying to sell you any weird snake oil here. Our friends at Fume try to look at breaking your bad habit in a bit of a different way. Our friends at Fume said, hey, not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of making it this stressful experience, why don't we just try to remove the bad from your bad habit? And Fume is an innovative, award-winning device that does just that. No electronics involved. Fume is completely natural. There is no vapor in here. It is just flavored air. Oh, are there bad chemicals? No bad chemicals. Flavored air, all natural, delicious flavors. As you can see, Fume has a fun adjustable airflow dial, so you can control how much air is coming through it with magnets and adjustable parts that make using it so fun. If you're a fidgeter like me, Fume is kind of the perfect device for you. But where does the flavored air come from? Just give me a second, I'll tell you. You open this bad boy up right here and look at that. That is what we like to call our Fume flavored core. Right now I've got raspberry lemon, but they come in all these little packets so you can enjoy all their classic flavors, like maple pepper, like orange vanilla, white cranberry, sparkling grapefruit, crisp mint, and of course raspberry lemon. Come on. Fume's new cores have so many different and unique flavors that make using your Fume even that much more fun. I actually got myself a Fume before they even reached out to me to sponsor one of my videos because I thought the idea was something that seemed so unique. The first time I tried it, it was a lot more flavorful than I thought. Breathing in the flavored cores actually gives you sort of a sensation like mint gum on a cold day. Fume has served over 150,000 customers, helping them break their bad habits, and you could be one of them. So you can join Fume by accelerating humanity's breakup with destructive habits by getting the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com/greenisnotnick and scan the QR code on the screen or use code greenisnotnick at checkout to get 10% off of the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code greenisnotnick to get 10% off of your order today. Thank you, Fume, for sponsoring this video. Let's break up some destructive habits and get back to the drama. But the tensions continue to rise as Charli is faced with the question of, do I want to live with Dixie? Oh, I don't know. And it's leading up to them moving in to this multi-million-dollar mansion in the Hollywood Hills that you know they already bought, and you know both of the girls are moving in there. And so we're like, yeah, you're going to move in together. You've already decided. But then Charli keeps wondering if she should or not. But of course, they've already made that decision. Dixie goes through and has a lot of her storyline about her music career. She like goes off on a trip to Nashville to songwrite, because that's something she totally needs to do for her music career, even though they don't ever show like a single instance of her coming up with a lyric or doing anything besides the actual performances and talking about the way that her music career is headed. And yes, that would be interesting to see from the D'Amelio perspective if Dixie's music actually like had any substance and if what she was doing was like groundbreaking and new. But it is kind of the textbook definition of, oh, I got famous from my sister off of TikTok and now I want to make songs. And she keeps talking about how she's always wanted to do it and how passionate she is about it. But then she makes a song where she's just like, oh, I don't want to be happy. I just want to be sad. I don't want to be happy. And then they do these things that are supposed to be these real life. She's like, oh, I'm going out to learn how to line dance with my friends. But then they just go to some random ass like dance studio where they pay some like cowboy cosplayer to teach them how to do line dancing in like a brightly lit room, which is something that I don't really think even tourists in Nashville do. They just go to the actual goddamn it place. Where does that bring me? The show is focused around the D'Amelio family without many friends or other people being involved, maybe besides Landon Barker, Travis Barker's son, who plays a role in the show as like the like lazy boyfriend of Charli who misses all of his appointments. And then they also talk about his dad a lot and how he's technically a Kardashian because his dad is married to one of what, Chloe?
Courtney.
Courtney Kardashian. And so Landon, I guess, is also now a full ass character in the show, who is also weirdly exploited while he's not even with his family, which feels even weirder. Like there's a whole sort of subplot with him where he doesn't know if he wants to go to Fashion Week with Charli because he has a fear of flights and planes because his dad got in like a horrible plane accident a few years ago, and so he's like pretty traumatized from it and has a big fear of flying. But they use that as like this quirky little, oh, like Charli's like, I don't know if like Landon's gonna be able to go to Fashion Week with me. Like I really hope he goes, but it's not really under his control. He might be too scared to like fly that day or whatever.
Happened within his family that I think would scar anyone.
I would want to go with you rather than anyone, but I also would never want to put you in a position where you felt uncomfortable.
But then they continually bring it back up as if it's something that Landon does have control over.
The thing is, if you don't want it, I'm gonna be by myself.
She's like, oh, it would just make me really sad, like if he didn't want to go anymore. And then they have like Charli's team is like talking about it behind his back.
I am going to Milan with Landon or by myself.
We hope Landon goes.
If he doesn't go, he's gonna be so upset. Dude, it's brutal though. I like understand. I get it. I don't want him to like go through that because I know he wants to go.
And it's like, dude, I don't think he wants to talk about how his dad almost like blew up in a plane.
And they belittle it too. They're like, oh, like he's like scared of flying. It's like, no, like he has a full-blown phobia of it, and it makes sense that he does given what happened. Like it's totally understandable.
And the other thing that they continue to like tease throughout the season, which we are kind of getting to, is that there was something that happened with the parents. There's this parent situation that happened while Charli and Heidi were on Dancing with the Stars for a few months. And they never say what it is. They keep teasing it and being like, oh, what is this big controversy that happened between the parents while Charli and Heidi were gone? And we're pretty sure there was some unfaithfulness, we believe.
Is this a bigger conversation that you want to have? Are you talking about me and Mom?
It's weird though because they keep bringing it up to Charli and Dixie, and they're like, I literally don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, they keep saying, I don't know if I can talk about it. It makes me like it makes them super anxious to talk about. It's something that
we're
seems
doing what's best for the family, right? But like, but Mark is really doing what's best for the family.
I'm like, they're constantly crying on camera, talking about how the relationship between the two of them between Charli and Dixie is like failing, and how Dixie treats Charli. But then they continue to shoot the show that is specifically causing so many of these problems. And even Charli says multiple times, she's like, I have so much on my plate. And then that's along with the show and along with the Kids' Choice Awards and the Talent Week and all the TikTok stuff. I do think that the parents definitely more than anyone are responsible for even allowing this or thinking it's a good idea for their kids. I think it's pretty disgusting that Mark and Heidi not only are like so amped and like always the ones that seem like they want to do the famous people stuff the most, but they also are so uninteresting and very obviously fake around the cameras to the point where they just aren't likable characters. And they don't really make Dixie a likable character either, even though they try to fluff it with the PMDD thing. The way she treats her is still pretty unacceptable, and she just overall has such a smug attitude about how she has to treat her sister because of this disorder she has, and how it's like hurting her relationship with her, even though you're still responsible for that as a fully grown adult with your younger sister who looks up to you and treats you with respect.
Yeah, what's up? They aren't letting us back to see you.
She was like, would you be friends with me if I wasn't your sister? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, would you? And she was like, I don't think so. Like,
My problem is Charli's fat dog. I like throw myself under the bus for anyone, and no one does that for me.
And Dixie literally never takes responsibility for her actions. Like literally there's that one dinner she's having with her childhood friend, her like one friend, and she's like literally just, and the friend is just like totally yes-manning her too, like, yeah, you know, there's nothing you can do about it, like, there's literally nothing you can do about it, like, you just have to, like, she's like, I have to treat people this way, it's like, this is just something I can't control. It's like, motherfucker, like, you figure it out.
Okay, what was I waffling on about? So as I was saying before, the D'Amelio show season 3 revolves around the 4 of them, with Landon being included some of the time, and then a bunch of people that maybe like work around them, but it's mostly just about the 2 sisters having the conflict, and then the only thing the parents talk about is the 2 sisters having conflicts with each other. And almost every time the instigator of that conflict is Dixie, and the only time where it is Charli is if Charli decides that she wants to be more reserved and hold back from talking to Dixie as much because it puts her in a bad mood also. But especially when you hear other people on the show talking about Dixie specifically, you can tell that there is kind of a consensus that she is, you know, like the bully of the family, I guess. Even when Landon talks about her, it's like, yeah, when Dixie's in one of her moods, just like, don't even talk to her, or she might, you know, abusively yell at you and make you feel less than human.
Dixie's not scary, but like, I feel like you could definitely, like, you're probably gonna have a better day if you steer clear of Dixie when she's upset. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say scary.
So it's hard to watch them constantly conflicted over whether or not they should live together, whether or not they are okay as a family, whether or not there's too much on Charli's plate. All the while they are talking to a camera on a reality TV show that is revolved around their life. But maybe even more than the lack of awareness around mental health while trying to be so mental health focused as a show, even more than that, the thing I hate the most about this show is how much of a nothing burger it is. Despite, you know, how busy the D'Amelios may be, what you see on camera is so dragged out every single episode that you could skip an episode and go to the next one and probably not even realize that you missed anything. Because so much of the show is filler of someone in the family being interviewed and just saying the same thing over and over again. And the biggest offender of this would be most of Charli's storylines that don't have to do with Dixie, like, hating her. All that happens with like half of the runtime of this show is just Charli talking about how she's nervous for something to happen, and then it happens, and then she goes on to the next thing and talks about how she's nervous for that thing to happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, that's what's going to happen for some teenage girl who is thrown into these things that put a bunch of pressure on her plate. She's just going to be nervous, and then she's going to do the thing, and then she's going to get another offer to do something else, and then she's going to be nervous. But they have nothing else for her to talk about. And I don't really want to blame it on her, but I don't know how they talk this much about her being nervous or having pressure on her to do something, and then they just keep playing it over and over again.
To take this very seriously because
Coming to an end, so I
this
really
is the
hope
time
to
where
work
it starts to
discussion
get
with them. So there should be more
something that
coming
can
in
go
the
in
future.
And I think another thing, which isn't really a symptom of the show specifically, but I think it's kind of just a symptom of like the kind of people that are on the show, but the vocabulary of, I mean, I would say everyone in the family, but specifically Charli, because she's only had so much education until she was thrown into this world. But when they ask her questions about things that have to do with her relationships or her family or the way she feels about anything, there's only so many ways that Charli knows how to say she's anxious and worried about something before it starts to feel like I'm going crazy. It's just this repetitive loop of going back to a talking head shot of her just saying that she's nervous again for something. And I don't want to blame it on her, yada, yada, yada. I want to make sure that it's clear that I know this is a depiction of the D'Amelio family through the lens of this reality show, and it's not all super realistic or whatever. But there are very obvious things that are wrong about having this family on camera. And so many of their issues that they talk about in this show could be solved by them not having a reality show that centers around their family. They already have enough going on. They're constantly talking about how busy they all are. Stop wondering what you can do to make your mental health better and cancel your goddamn reality show. Because the amount of times that people are on the screen and they're just talking about how there is some sort of conflict that needs to be solved, most of the time, there's a pretty easy fix for it, and it is not doing the show. The reality show is a bad idea. It's not even a good show. They draw out everything for way too long. There's nothing to take away from any of these episodes besides, hey, we need to focus on our mental health. But it's immediately contradicted by the fact that none of them actually give a shit about their mental health. Neither of their parents care about the kids because all they really care about is continuing to make money, and it's very clear in the show that that's all they care about. I can't really imagine what it's like outside of the show because, of course, they're like amped to be on camera and talk about what's going on in their lives, even though I cannot pull a single thing out of my head of what Heidi and Mark talk about on the show besides just their daughters. It's not really a family reality TV show because you rarely see the parents do anything unless it's with the family. And then they also just like plant a lot of very obviously fake instances in there, like Landon taking too long to wake up to go to the award show and get ready, or the family showing up late to Charlie's opening dance number at the Teen Kids Choice Awards. So many of these things that are like caught on camera, and there's so many people on their team to make sure that these super high budget serious things are done the right way, and then they like put a whole storyline about how they messed it up and somehow they showed up to the red carpet too late at the Kids Choice Awards. How did they show up late? They all had a scripted part in the Kids Choice Awards. There's no way they showed up like after the show had already started, like they said. If Dixie, Heidi, and Mark the Shark showed up late to the event and then they have parts in the... I don't care. There's still 6 episodes left of the season. We're probably going to watch them, so let me know if you want me to yap more about it. I might do it on He Said Us. I thought today would be an interesting Green is Not Nick video because I do find this show so interesting as a test subject for how you can ruin your family. And the problem solving in this show is just insane. They have so many things that they complain about, so many things that are wrong, and the way they solve those problems never has to do with reeling back on the social media public part of their lives. Hey, maybe your mental health would be better if you stop putting everything on camera all the time. Maybe that's why it's so tense around your family, because the only time you actually talk to them is when you guys are all on camera and there's a bunch of crew around you.
For me and for my mental health, I feel like the more I go out and do things, the better I feel.
Anyways, I think that's all I have to say. I'm adding on a little bit to this video because yesterday we watched episode 5 of the D'Amelio show where they really unwrap what was going on with the parents. The episode is called There Are So Many Sides to This Story. And most of it is a filler episode where they just keep saying stuff but not really saying stuff. They're like, well, it wasn't really an affair. It wasn't really this or that. Oh, I don't know how much I can say. I don't know what I want to say. Spoilers for the D'Amelio show episode 5. I'm not going to get too deep into it. But the amount of conflict and stuff that they talk about in a room with a bunch of cameras is so, like, odd and unsettling because the parents are like trying to connect with their kids and they keep trying. Why you look so confused? What are you looking at?
I'm just reading all the episode descriptions. I'm reading ahead. Sorry.
It's so weird how the parents are trying to get their kids to open up and they're trying to connect with them, and how the kids aren't really being responsive. And it's obvious that there's this tension there because of there being cameras in the room, especially in these confessional type shots where they're like asking them questions or whatever. The producers come off as like the slimiest, just worst kind of people. Like Dixie will be talking about the situation going on with their parents, and they'll leave in the producers asking questions like, I think I know what you're maybe upset about, or maybe I have a theory as to why this is this way and that way.
You're like, can you tell us what happened? Like every episode they're like, so what happened? It's like, dude.
And at the same time, it's like they sign up for this stupid reality TV show, and part of me is like, yeah, you kind of deserve these producers, like, asking you all these questions that are super invasive because of how ridiculous all this is. But it's still, like, so gross to see just how suggestive and weird the relationship between the producer and the family is, and how they ask them questions, and how the family has kind of just given up any sort of, like, privacy or, like, shame at all at this point. They just don't give a shit if everyone knows what's going on in their lives, because they care more about, or at least the parents care more about them being on this reality TV show than actually being, like, a real family. It's just so weird. The whole time I was watching it, I was like, I know this is what reality TV is, but to have these two younger girls a part of that and have their relationship with their parents and each other so tied into this show, it's just, like, so hard to watch. I won't spoil exactly what the thing is that happened with the parents, but I barely even know, because the whole time they're, like, just saying nothing about it.
Literally since episode 1, they're like, so what happened during Dancing with the Stars? And they're like, I'm not talking about it. But then they tease that they're going to talk about it.
Like, every episode.
It seems like the next episode they're going to say what happened, but they don't say what happened. It's literally just, like, nothing. They never say anything about what happened. Even episode 5, it's like, oh, they're going to talk about what happened. The family's going to talk about what happened. The producers are like, they put this text on the screen that's like, Mark and Heidi D'Amelio came back to talk about what happened. And then now they don't even say what happened.
They literally don't say what happened, and Mark just needs to fucking shave.
But you can kind of, like, they're like sprinkling you with a little bit more details about what happened. It's like, you can kind of get the gist of, like, what might have happened, but they still don't really say what happened.
What happened?
Like, what happened?
You might know what happened, but you gotta get the gist of what happened. And it's not even as drama as they're trying to make it out to seem. Like, it's literally, what I'm pretty sure it is just, like, Mark got jealous because Heidi was on Dancing with the Stars, and he was like, oh, Heidi's dancing with all these people, and they're, like, grabbing her, and there's a lot of touching, and he feels, like, fragile and stuff about that. And basically got, like, upset and was like, I'm so lonely, like, I'm at home here, I just have Dixie to complain to, and you got all these men touching you while you're dancing. And then Charlie's like, dude, that's what dancing is, you mother effer. Yeah, that's how it works. Did you not think that through when your wife was going to go on Dancing with the Stars, that she'd be dancing with other people? And I just think it comes from this place of his, you know, Italian fragility that Mark D'Amelio can't seem to get over. And I don't think they want to admit that. That's my theory. But I have a theory. I will say that part of that episode was Heidi kind of explaining how she was recognized, like, on the street for being Heidi from Dancing with the Stars or whatever, and she was like, finally I get to be, like, just me. I'm not just Charlie's or Dixie's mom or whatever. And it's like, well, that's still what you are on the show. Like, you're still Charli D'Amelio's mom on the show. And I'm glad that she's finding some sort of identity, but maybe you should just, like, stop trying to be famous. And not everyone has to be famous. That's not, like, the goal of life, is for each one of you to acquire fame and be able to make money and get recognition off of it. Just be a mom. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Now we go to the conclusion of the video. Thank you for watching this video. We have, like, a week left on tour. All the shows are sold out now, right? So if you want to come, you can't. But once tour is over, we will get back in the swing of things. You can check out He Said Us for some more videos. You can check out Queef Jerky. We're cooking. I'll say it. We are cooking. They gotta do something about the white balance, or the way they're doing the tan on Heidi D'Amelio's face, because she looks like an absolute, can I say freak? I don't know. Okay, that's it. Subscribe for more.